All right, so today we are starting a brand new chapter, chapter 10, and it's all about surface area of prisms. How many of you would say you have someone at your house that orders things off Amazon a lot, and you have a lot of those boxes there? Okay. So, guys, what shape is this right here on the top?
Rectangle.
A rectangle. So we would call that a rectangular prism. What else would you say is the same exact shape as this exact sized rectangle? Not the side.
The bottom.
The bottom of it, okay? So this area down here, which we can't see at all, but the bottom of that is also the same, okay? So anytime you have a prism, it's going to have two bases, and those bases are going to be exactly the same shape and size. Let's look over here at this. How many of you have ever seen a candy called a Toblerone before? Has anyone ever eaten it before? There are two shapes that you will see on a Toblerone. What is this shape right here?
A rectangle.
A rectangle. What other shape do you also see there?
Triangle.
A triangle, okay? So what you have to do now is decide, would this be a rectangle prism or a triangular prism?
Triangle.
Remember, it is only whatever there's two of. So guys, looking at that, how many triangles do you see on that Toblerone? There are two of them. That one right there and this one right here on that bottom, okay? So you would almost put it up and down like this. You can see the way that I'm putting the Toblerone. Now, let's talk about the rectangles. How many rectangles are on my Toblerone I'm showing you right now?
3.
I heard 2, 3, and 4. Count this with me. How many's right here? 1 on the back side, 2, and on the bottom, 3. So this could not be a rectangular prism because it has 3 bases if it was a rectangular prism. So instead, this has to be a triangular prism because there's only 2 triangles. All right? I want you guys to take out your red pens and fill in this important information section for me. So before we talk about some things, I want to see what we remember about what we learned about area. So beforehand, we had made these little vocab cards that were helping us for memorizing our formulas. Guys, what's the formula for area of a rectangle? Very good. Length times width. How about the area of a square? S squared, because you're multiplying those sides together. How about a triangle? Very good. 1/2 times base times height. So those are just some little reviews right there. New formulas today, a little bit more complicated. If you would take your red pen, and I want you to draw a triangle or a cloud around this formula for, and then underline these words, a rectangular prism. So when you're trying to find the surface area of a rectangular prism, the base is always going to be, what's this say? A rectangle, okay? So if you look right here, I have a tissue box. Guys, what shape is the bottom and the top of my tissue box? A rectangle. So this right here would be called a rectangular prism. This also kind of looks a little bit like a tissue box, okay? But here's the things that you have to remember. The length. What does it say about the length? Straight on. So when you're looking straight at that shape, that's going to be your length. Let's talk about the width. What's it say about the width? The side. So the side length right here, that is going to be our width. And finally, this to me is the easiest one, the height. What is the height?
Up and down.
It's whenever you're looking at it, it's the up and down length, okay? Now let's come down here to the surface area of a triangular prism. If you would, underline the words triangular prism in red. And I want you to draw a cloud around the formula for a triangular prism. Now remembering, every time you have a prism, there are 2 bases. How many bases are there?
2.
There are 2. Looking at this, what shapes do you see in that prism? Triangles and rectangles. Remember, the base can only have 2. What do we have 2 of? Do we have 2 rectangles or do we have 2 triangles in this one?
2 triangles.
We have 2 triangles. This is one of the triangles. Where's the other one? On the bottom down here. Now if I'm looking at this, it kind of looks like this is one of the rectangles. This blue one over here is another one of the rectangles, but where's the next rectangle? It is in the back, at the back of that, okay? Now, before we do anything else, I want us to figure out what some other lengths are that we have here. If I were to be looking at this length, how long do you think that would be?
30 centimeters.
6 meters.
It is 6. How'd you figure out that was 6?
Because 6 is on like the other side.
If you look at this, that was 6, which means this right here is also 6. So if everybody would please put a 6 on top of it. Just the boys. How long do you think that is?
6.
Also 6. Everybody put a little 6 right there. Now let's see what else we can figure out. If this down here at the bottom of the blue rectangle is a 4, what else would also be 4 meters?
4.
The top of it.
The top of it, going up here, whatever is parallel to it, this would also be 4. So everybody put a 4 right there. Luke, what do you think this length right here would be?
3.
3. How'd you get that?
Well, because the like on the bottom is 3.
There you go. If down here at the bottom is 3, that means the top, which is parallel, would also be 3. Everyone take your pencil and put a little 3. Now here's probably the hardest one, the dotted line down here. Raise your hand if you think you know how long that dotted line is. Haylin, what do you think?
5.
5. How'd you get that?
Because it's the same length as the top one and the top one's 5.
Good job. It's that same length as the top one up there. Okay? So hopefully that helps you a little bit to be able to find what the missing lengths are. Just as a reminder, guys, what's the area of a rectangle formula? Length times width. What's the area of a square formula? S squared. These formulas are going to help us as we move on. Let's go to this next one. Find the surface area of the prism. Remind me again, guys, how many bases does a prism have?
2 and 4.
2.
2. So, what would the shape be that there are 2 of?
Rectangle.
A rectangle. Repeat after me. Rectangular prism.
Rectangle.
All right, so this one right here is a rectangular prism. The first thing I want us to do is figure out what the length, the width, and the height is. Remember, the height is up and down. How long is the height of this rectangular prism? 6. Everybody take your pencil and put an H for height for the 6. All right, let's go up to the top of your notes where you wrote down. Okay, so we saw the height says up and down. What does it say about the W or the width?
That's side to side.
It's the side. Okay, your notes up at the top said it's the side. Guys, what is the side length?
3.
5.
The 5 is on the side of it, so everybody put a W. Look up at the top of your notes, and what does it say next to the L or the length?
Up and down.
Nope.
Straight on.
Straight on. So when you are looking straight on at that shape, how long is the length of it?
3 inches.
3 inches. Everybody put a little L. You can put a capital L or a cursive L. Now, if you look at this box that I have here, do you see that this kind of looks like that rectangular prism up there? Does everyone see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is just kind of giving you a visual here in our class of what that one right there looks like. So we know that this is what kind of a shape?
Rectangle.
A rectangular prism. Okay, what's the difference between this right here and just the rectangle I have drawn up there on my board? Or the difference between this right here? What is the difference between these two?
The size.
What is it, Halen?
That's like 3D and that's not.
Correct. A prism is a 3D shape. The other one is just a flat shape, okay? So that's why we are finding the surface area of this 3D shape. Let's look up at the top. What is the surface area of a rectangular prism formula? Everyone read it to me.
Surfaces.
Okay, it's kind of a long formula, all right? So let's write this down. The surface area, 2 times the length times the width. Because think about it. There's 2 of the same exact shape. All right, so this is the bottom and the top. Plus, there's another one. Length times the height. And there's 2 of those. Plus, there's one more. Width times the height. And there are 2 of those. Now, we're just going to start plugging the numbers in. 2 times, Nasir, what's the length?
3 inches.
3, and what's the width?
5.
Okay, so we're going to do 2 times 3 times 5, plus the length and the height. Michaela, what is the length and the height? All right, so we're going to multiply those together. 3 times 6. Plus, there's 2 of these. Jace, what's the width and the height?
6. Oh, it's 3.
What's the width? Remember, the width is the one that we see on the side.
5.
Good job. All right, now, if you remember back to PEMDAS, you guys remember PEMDAS?
Yes, ma'am.
What do we always do first? Addition or multiplication?
Addition. Multiplication.
You can see right here, the M in multiplication comes first. So let's right now multiply these parts right here together. Okay, so I've got 2 of them. Guys, what's 3 times 5? 15. Plus, I've got 2 of these. What's 3 times 6?
30.
18. Plus, what's 5 times 6? 30. All right, now, should I be adding together first or multiplying?
Multiply.
We are going to multiply each of these together first. 2 times 15?
30.
2 times 18?
36. 36.
2 times 30.
60.
All right, now I'd like you guys to add those up together. All right, guys, what's the answer?
36.
Okay, now what kind of units do you think I need to have here? Inches squared. Why do you think I need to square the units? Because you are finding surface area of the object. All right, so the first thing we're going to do on this next one, let's identify what kind of a shape do you guys think that is?
Rectangular prism.
A rectangular prism, okay? Because the base, the top and the bottom, are both rectangles. Let's identify, first things first, the height. Ellie, how tall is that rectangular prism? 5 meters. Everybody put an H next to the 5 meters. Next up, what did we say? How can we identify what the width is? Up at the top of your notes, what's it say? It's the side. Guys, the side length over here, how long is it? 8 meters. So everybody, if you would, please put a little W. And then what does it tell us in our notes about the length?
It's 8 meters.
It is 8, but what does it tell us in our notes about it? How do I identify what the length is?
It's the front. The first thing.
What words did I say in the notes?
Straight on.
Straight on. If you are looking straight on, I would see this shape right here. And how long is that length?
8.
It is 8 meters. Everybody put a little L next to it. So now we got to go back to that formula that we have used here just a little bit ago. So if you guys would please write down the formula for the area of a rectangular prism. Okay, now that we have that written down, what should I plug in first? Luke. 2 times the length times the width. What's my length and width?
The length is 8, so 8 times 8.
Very good. Jace, the next one says 2 times the length times the height. So what should I plug in? 8 times 5. Very good. Halen, what's the width and the height?
It's 8 times 5 times 8.
Very good. Okay, and you could say 5 times 8 or 8 times 5. Either one is totally fine. All right, first things first, we are going to focus on our parentheses and the work that we have inside of those parentheses. 2 times, guys, what's 8 times 8?
64.
64. Plus, we have 2 of these. What is 8 times 5? 40. Plus, we have 2 of these. What's 8 times 5 again?
40.
Also 40. Now we're going to be multiplying each of these together before we add. Reagan, what's 2 times 64?
128.
128. Nasir, 2 times 40. Jocelyn, 2 times 40. All right, guys, add those up together, please. And when you added it together, what did you get with the units attached?
288 inches squared.
Not inches squared.
Meters.
Meters squared. Why did we square the units?
Because
because you are finding the surface area. Before we go into this next problem, I want you guys to, if you would, draw a picture of this. Let's put it above your instructions on number 2. All right, so once again, you're going to draw this right here above your instructions on your notes. Here's the main thing. It doesn't have to look perfect, but I do want you to remember to put this little box there. Guys, what does that little box mean?
Right.
It's a right angle. So when you have a right angle like that, there are 2 things right there next to it, all right? This is called one leg, and this is called the other leg of the triangle. Normally, when we have triangles, what do we call those? The base and the height, okay? So when you have that, there is something that is what we would call opposite of this right angle. And it's this big, long word over here. Everyone say hypotenuse. Repeat after me, hypotenuse. All right, so the hypotenuse is not used in any way when you are trying to find the base and the height of a triangle. Instead, you will just use the 2 legs or the 2 parts that are right there connected with that little 90-degree angle, okay? So hopefully that helps you as we move on with this next problem. All right, so let's look at this shape. What 2 shapes do you see in this prism? Rectangles? Rectangles and triangles. Remind me again, guys, how many sides does the base need to have?
3.
2. Repeat after me. There are 2 bases. Every time on a prism, there will be 2 bases. Guys, do you see 2 triangles there or 2 rectangles there? 2 triangles. Remember, there's a rectangle on the back side, okay? So this is kind of like this Toblerone candy that I have right here a little bit, all right? So this is going to be, is this a triangular prism or a rectangular prism? Triangular prism. For one, you can see, I told you up here, it is a triangular prism. But if not, you could see there are 2 triangles or there's 2 bases, all right? So we're going to start with our formula. SA, or surface area, equals, we have 2 triangles there, okay? What's the formula for a triangle? 1/2 times base times height. All right, so we know, once again, there's 2 bases, the top and the bottom of this figure, and they are both triangles. Then it says, let's flip back to our notes on the front side. There was a second red fluffy cloud that we have a formula there. I'm going to wait till everyone has flipped to the front side of their notes. What does that second cloud say for our formula when there's a triangular prism? Go ahead. SA equals 2 times 1/2 base times height plus area of the lateral faces. Guys, a lateral face is a fancy way of saying sides, okay? So if this is triangles on top and bottom, guys, what are the sides that I have? Rectangle. How many rectangles do you think there are?
3.
3. Look, because this is a triangle, there are 3 sides to a triangle, which means there's going to be 3 lateral faces. Unfortunately, I cannot just say plus 3 rectangles because the rectangles are different lengths. So instead, we're going to say plus a rectangle, plus another rectangle, plus another rectangle. Once again, you cannot just say plus 3 rectangles because all of those rectangles are going to be different lengths. Okay? Let's look at the shape that we have over here and see if we can identify what some of the different lengths are going to be. If this is 6, what else is 6? The other one right there. Okay, so I want everyone to put a 6 right there. How long would this one be?
6.
Also 6. Those are all the same height. So everybody put a 6 on all of those. Let's see if you can identify this one. If this is 3, what else is 3?
The top.
The top of it. Everybody put a 3 right there. What do you think this length right here would be right there? 4. How'd you figure that out? Because it's the same as the bottom. Everybody put a 4. Now, this one's going to be kind of tough. What do you guys think the dotted line is? 5. That wasn't tough for you. So let's put a 5. Check to see if your partner has labeled each of those different parts of our triangular prism. All right. So here's what we're going to do. If you're looking at that triangle up there at the top, I have redrawn the triangle down here at the bottom. Okay, this will just be to help us visualize this a little better. There you can see is the right angle. So this one over here is a 5. Okay, do you guys remember what that fancy word was for the diagonal across from the right angle?
Length.
Did you guys write it down up on top?
Hypotenuse.
Repeat after me, hypotenuse.
Hypotenuse.
All right, so that 5 is our hypotenuse, which means we're not using it right now for the base and the height. All right, do you guys know what the base of that triangle is? Listen, all I've done is I have taken this and I've put it right down there. So what did you guys already say is the length down there?
3.
It is a 3. What about this length over here?
6.
Look, right here. What is the same as that?
4.
The opposite one down there, which you guys should have already written down, hopefully. So that is going to be a 4. Does everyone understand what I've just done there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all I've done is I've redrawn that triangle and put it down underneath so we can more easily find the base and the height. So now let's start plugging some things in. SA equals 2. Can someone remind me why there's a 2 there?
Because it's squared. 2 triangles.
There are 2 triangles on this triangular prism, the 2 bases, the top and the bottom of my shape. 2 times half times, Nasir, what's the base of this triangle? 3. And what's the height? Not 5. Remember, we do not care about this. That's what we call the hypotenuse. 4. All right, so that is all to do with that little triangle right there. Now we're going to talk about the rectangle. I'd like us to focus on this green rectangle right here. Guys, what are the length and the width of that green rectangle? Good job, okay? Because this right here, we knew it was a 6, just like that. Okay, so that is going to be 3 times 6. The next one I want us to look at is this blue rectangle here in the back. Maddie, what's the length and the width of that blue rectangle? Look at the blue one. 4 and 4 times 6. Now, we said that there was a third rectangle. Where's the third rectangle at?
In the back.
It is on the back. So what side do we know is going to be one of the lengths on the back?
Rectangle.
5 times 6.
5, okay, because there's the length. And then how tall has everything been?
What?
It's been 6. So we're going to do plus 5 times 6. Okay, any questions about what we've plugged in so far? All right, let's keep going. SA equals, I'd like to look at this part first, okay? We're going to do our parentheses first, but before we do anything else, let's look at 3 times 4. Guys, what's 3 times 4? 3 times 4?
12.
12. What is half of 12?
6.
6. And then what is 2 times 6?
12.
12. Okay, so let's write this down. Plus 3 times 6? 18. So that's the area of just that green rectangle. Jace, what's 4 times 6? Okay, 24. Ellie, what's 5 times 6? 30. All right, I want you guys to add up all those surface spaces and then stand once you have the answer. All right, when you added those together, what did you get?
84.
All right, very good. Okay, before we go on to the next one, I want us to focus on this right now one more time. What is that length called that is opposite of the right angle? The hypotenuse. Everyone say hypotenuse. Okay, now remember, when we're trying to find the base, that'll be one leg, and the height is the other leg. The hypotenuse, that diagonal one, is the one that we really are never going to use. When you look at this shape right here, can someone tell me what you think it looks like?
Cheese.
A piece of cheese. Okay, someone else said cheesecake. Anything else?
Cake, a slice of cake.
A slice of cake, okay. So when you're looking at or thinking of that piece of cheesecake or a piece of cheese or a slice of pie, what do you think the base is? Do you think the base is a rectangle or a triangle?
Triangle.
How many bases does every prism have?
2.
2. We got it finally, okay? So, let's start off with this right here, the surface area. We know it's a triangular prism because there are 2 triangles. So we're going to start it off with the formula of 2 times, what's the formula for just a regular old triangle? 2 times 1/2 times base times height. Plus, what are the other shapes that we see there?
A triangle.
We have 2 triangles. Okay, it looks like a square and rectangle. So here's the deal. I want us to look at this right here. How tall do you think that is?
3 meters.
How'd you figure that out?
It's on the side.
Because it's on the side. So this would be a 3. Everybody write a little 3 there for me. So this shape, what kind of a shape would that be?
That's a rectangle.
It is a rectangle. How can you tell that's a rectangle and not a square?
3 times 5 and not 5 times.
Because it's 3 times 5 and not 5 times 5. Okay, so you always got to try to identify what those different sides are. All right, so that's going to be a rectangle. Plus, what's the other shape? Another rectangle plus another.
Triangle.
No, we already got the 2 triangles. Another rectangle. Okay, so now we've got to plug these things in. Before we do anything else, I want us to identify some missing lengths that we don't know yet. You guys already put in that this is a 3. Michaela, how long do you think that is?
12.
Why do you think it's 12?
Because the other side is the same thing.
Okay, this is not the same thing. Look at that. That intersects. So if it's intersecting, that is not parallel lines, which means they don't equal the same thing. What is parallel lines with that black line?
Oh, it's 13.
It is 13 because this is parallel with it. So everybody please write 13 on top of that line. How long, Jocelyn, do you think that dotted line there on the back of the pie would be?
13.
No. Not 3.
5.
This is the opposite of this one right here. Those are parallel. So Jocelyn, what would it be? How long is that? Which means this would also be the same thing. So everybody please put a 5 on top of that dotted line. We have one more dotted line here. Raise your hand if you think you know how long this dotted line is going to be. Abigail, guess? 12, very good, because it is opposite of that. All right, so at the beginning of all your prisms, you want to identify any shapes that you possibly can, because that's going to help you when we start plugging some numbers in. All right, so let's talk about this triangle right now. 2 times 1/2 times, Jonathan, what do you think the base of that triangle is? Remember, you got to focus on that little right angle. What is the bottom of the right angle? 5 meters is correct. What do you think the height of that triangle is, Jonathan? Okay, excellent. It is 12. Now what I want us to look at is, I'll shade in, let's see. If we were to look at this one that's kind of straight on right here, I'm going to shade it in red. What is the length and the width of that red one I just shaded in, guys? 13 and 3. Okay, so that will be 13 times 3. You could also say 3 times 13. Plus, let's look at another rectangle. This time I want us to focus on this rectangle back here in the back. How long do you think that one is? 12 times 3. Very good. So plus 12 times 3 or 3 times 12, doesn't matter. There's one final one. It's this little guy at the bottom. What did we discover that little guy was?
5 times 3.
5 times 3. Okay, because remember that 3 was on the opposite side, so we've got 5 times 3 there. Now we're just going to work through and get all of these things. So first things first, let's underline this little part. Guys, what's 5 times 12?
30.
5 times 12.
60.
60. What is half of 60?
30.
All right, and now what is... Okay, sorry about that. Then what is 2 times 30, guys? 60. All right, so that, the triangle on top of the cheese and the bottom of the cheese is 60 total. Plus, girls, 13 times 3 is?
39.
39. Plus boys, 12 times 3? 36. Come on, guys. Plus everyone, 5 times 3? 15. All right, now you're just going to add those together to get the surface area of this triangular prism. All right, guys, what is the answer?
150 meters squared.
150 meters squared is correct. All right, we're going to go back to something that we learned a while ago in Chapter 9. Classify the pair of angles, then find the value of x. So we talked about vertical angles, supplementary angles, and complementary angles. One of them adds up to, do you guys remember what this little shape is? A right angle. How many degrees is a right angle?
30.
Okay, so which kind of angles have we talked about that add up to 90 degrees? Is it complementary, supplementary, or vertical?
Complementary.
Complementary is correct, okay? So these kinds of angles here are complementary angles. Everyone write that down and box it in. If you would remind me, complementary angles always add up to how many degrees?
90.
90 degrees. So that means this number, 69, plus this imaginary number, x, is going to equal, how many degrees did you say complementary angles were?
90.
90 degrees. Now this is just going back to an algebra problem we learned long ago. How do I get x by itself?
Subtract the number.
Okay, subtract the numbers. So we're going to subtract 69 from both sides. All right, guys, what's the answer? 21 degrees. Make sure you've got that little degrees symbol up there. Okay, let's go on to the next one. This is a straight line. Do you guys remember how many degrees a straight line is? 180 degrees. That means this number plus this x are going to equal 180 degrees. What kind of angles are those? Complementary, supplementary, or vertical? Supplementary. Everyone say supplementary.
Supplementary.
All right, so that's the kind of angles that we have. So what we're going to do is we're going to add up the 117 plus the unknown angle, and that's going to equal, how many degrees are supplementary angles?
180.
180 degrees. All right, you want to get x by itself, so I have to do what? Subtract 117 on both sides. Answer?
11 degrees.
63.
63 degrees.
Huh? Oh, I put 128.
That's okay. All right, we have one final thing here. We've talked about it before. It kind of looks like an X. It looks like intersecting angles, but they're not called intersecting angles. What kind are they? Vertical angles. Does anyone remember something we have learned about vertical angles? They equal each other, okay? So that means this equals that. So I could write x plus 3 equals 84. How do I get x by itself?
Add the 84 minus 3.
Subtract 3 on both sides. And the answer is
81. 81 degrees.
81 degrees. Okay, so tonight's homework is over 10.1. There are 6 problems. Some of them will be those review problems, and some of them will be the new problems we learned today.